I'm back, baby. Lot to talk about. Let's roll.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In Locked On Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Please go like and subscribe. Turn the notifications on at the YouTube channel as well. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen each and every day. Free and available on all platforms. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who can take you on that journey of self-discovery from wherever you are. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. I was gone all week last week. I was more sick than I've been in a long time. I had what rhymes with schmoment. It starts with a C and ends with a D. And I think that YouTube, there are some flags that come up when that word is mentioned in some form or fashion. I don't know. So that's where I was. I didn't forget that I hosted a podcast. I know there were a lot of things that happened, from Budda Baker requesting a trade to new jerseys getting rolled out a handful of days ago to Kyler Murray having his statue unveiled in Norman, Oklahoma, and to new high-ranking officials of the Arizona Cardinals being in attendance. I'm going to talk about all three of those in kind of a catch-up mode here. But first segment is set on number 3 overall. The draft week is upon us. I could do a mock draft for you. I think it's a fool's errand. We have no idea what the hell is going to happen. It's exciting, but it's also a little on the scary pants side because it seems like the number 3 overall pick doesn't nearly hold as much weight as it did not 6 weeks ago. Could it be Will Levis and Anthony Richardson falling out of favor? Maybe. Could it be CJ Stroud falling out of favor, where there are some measurables as it pertains to between the ears that didn't shed such a fair light or such a positive light on CJ Stroud, who I had as the number 1 quarterback coming out of this year's draft class, albeit a draft class that does not stack up to the top ones that we've seen over the last handful of seasons. Definitely not as it pertains to Caleb Williams and Drake May in 2024. So when you look at the number 3 overall pick, there are a couple bullet points that I want to rip through here. We're going to talk more in depth about this on Tuesday and Wednesday. I will be live on the Locked On NFL Draft channel after the Cardinals make a draft pick at 3 or trade back or do whatever they do, give up the 3rd pick for nothing. I don't know. It's the Cardinals. You never know it. You never know what's going to happen. There are a couple bullet points that I kind of want to, with a keep it simple, stupid mentality behind these, because, that's where I thrive. These are a couple things that I want you just to keep in mind as we inch closer and closer to draft day. Remove mock drafts from your cerebellum. They're fun. Fun is over. This is real draft stuff now. At number 3, the one thing the Cardinals must do is maximize the pick. Okay. And it's like, well, duh, we've been talking about that for a long time. Maximize means different things now. I've been on team trade back since day 1 before it became cool. I'm not cool in a lot of respects. I guess when I say things 4 years before they should have happened, a couple months before they should have happened with extending Budda Baker, this one has just been trade back, just seems the most obvious. But maximizing now, as it pertains to trading back, has a different definition. The Cardinals cannot trade back just to trade back. They can't trade back to number 7 or number 11 and get maybe a first-round pick out of it. I think that's a bad example. Like, the Cardinals' most likely trade back would be to 4 with Indy. Okay? And, I mean, crazy things happen at the draft. Maybe somebody gets a stick up their rear and, want to move up from outside of the top 10 to draft Anthony Richardson. But when they're rumblings, the Will Anderson's going to go number 2 to Houston because they don't see CJ Stroud as the prospect that they did when this whole process started. It kind of throws everything into Looney Tunes. It kind of throws everything into open, choppy, deadliest catch water where you don't really have control over the situation. So when I say maximize with the Cardinals trading back, it's not to get the most draft capital now. It's to move back while still being in arm's reach of a prospect they want to draft. And if they move back to 4, that's going to be obvious because Indy may want to move up a spot, give up a second or third round pick this year, and the Cardinals can still draft who they want. Will Anderson, I think it was Bruce Feldman who had, I read this article. Bruce Feldman had over 10 high-ranking, whether it be head coaches or GMs, talking about how Will Anderson isn't a transcendent talent and how Tyree Wilson may be the guy is what I'm thinking about here as the first edge rusher off the board. But number one bullet point, maximizing the number 3 overall pick no longer is defined by getting the most draft capital they can and moving as far down as they can. It seems like those days are long gone, starting with CJ Stroud and his draft stock plummeting, as well as plummeting as to what it was at one point with being number 1 overall. Now reports are out that Bryce Young is going number 1. And then Anthony Richardson and Will Levis aren't really rising up the ranks like the Cardinals had wished they would at this point. So that's number 1. Number 2, this is bullet point number 2, and this is the most important one. Regardless of what happens with the Cardinals and their first round pick, whether it be drafting at 3, trading back to the middle of the top 10, drafting offensive linemen, or trading outside of the top 10, we have no idea what's going to happen. Anybody that says they do are lying to you or trying to be cooler than they are with their sources and whatever crap it is. Nobody knows what the hell is going to happen. So just because somebody says, my sources says this, doesn't mean jack Shinuki. I don't even know what that means. But bullet point number 2. As long as the Cardinals don't draft a quarterback, a kicker, a punter, and thank you, Twitter, a long snapper, whatever position they draft is going to benefit their team. Is it Bijan Robinson at 13? It's going to benefit their team. It's dumb, but it would benefit their team. Wide receiver, benefit their team. I know those are the 2 outsiders as it pertains to need, and I'm just saying this almost flippantly at this point, but any position the Cardinals draft in the first round is going to benefit their team. They have so many holes. Say not wide receiver, look at that wide receiver room without DeAndre Hopkins. You say not running back, look at that running back room if James Conner gets hurt. Okay, like any position is a position of need for the Cardinals, not named special teamers, quarterback, and long snapper. I guess long snapper would be part of special teams. So that's kind of the lens that you should be going into this, at least from my perspective, going into the draft in the first round. It doesn't matter. Is it Paris Johnson Jr.? Guard? Sure. Tackle? Sure. Is it Christian Gonzalez, the corner out of Oregon? Sure. Is it Devin Witherspoon, the corner out of Illinois? Sure. It doesn't matter. The Cardinals have so many needs. So just because they probably need an offensive lineman more than anything, and just because people are saying that both, Tyree Wilson and Will Anderson are probably 1 and 1A as it pertains to the edge rush position, just because the Cardinals desperately need pass rush, doesn't mean them drafting another position is a failure. When in past years, it was when drafting an inside linebacker, when the Cardinals could have drafted Tristan Wirfs or Jedrick Wills with a top 10 pick, drafted Isaiah Simmons. When the Cardinals could have drafted a corner, an offensive lineman, instead of Zaven Collins with the middle teens pick that they had, that was a bad decision, position group-wise, as it pertains to who they drafted. This year, doesn't matter. Draft anybody. Draft Jalen Carter. Got it. Draft, with Budda Baker wanting out, who knows? Drafting a corner, drafting an edge rusher, drafting an offensive lineman. I guess you could throw a tight end in there. If they draft a tight end in the first round, I'm done. But when I say any position helps, sure, the inner circle is pass rush, interior defensive line, offensive lineman, corner, in no particular order. But if they draft anybody that's not a quarterback, kicker, punter, long snapper, it's going to be a win for this team. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Monti, Ossenfort, and Jonathan Gannon went to the unveiling of Kyler Murray's statue outside the University of Oklahoma Stadium. What does it mean, and why is it so much more important than what just meets the eye? That's next. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is sponsored by BetterHelp. And therapy is something that I've been through, that I'm actually going back soon. And it's something that people don't usually like to talk about, but it's something that helps. It does, proven time and time again. Getting to know yourself can be a lifelong process, especially, because we're all growing and changing. Therapy is all about deepening your self-awareness and understanding, because sometimes we don't know what we want or why we react the way that we do until we talk through things. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who can take you on that journey of self-discovery from wherever you are. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suitable to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. For the last 4 years on this here podcast, Locked On Cardinals, your team every day, I've constantly said that Kyler Murray is not perfect. Kyler Murray is not a finished product. And Kyler Murray hasn't been given the leadership and support that a young quarterback in this league desperately needs if that organization wants that young quarterback to succeed at an elite level. We've seen the oh my God moments, as I call them here on this podcast, from Kyler Murray. Enough to the point where more oh my God moments should have happened, and that's coaching. So when Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, tweeted out multiple times, Monti, Ossenfort, and Jonathan Gannon should be focusing on the draft instead of, being with Kyler Murray at the unveiling of his statue, I say, shut the hell up. It's not about this draft. It's not about looking at Kyler Murray as someone who's more important than he is. This is the support that Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury should have given Kyler Murray in different ways through the 4 years that Kyler Murray's been the quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals. This is a small, culture-shifting action of appreciation by a GM and a head coach who've never held the posts that they're holding now and have never actually coached or GM'd over Kyler Murray before. This is a massive step for the Arizona Cardinals organization. And yeah, it sounds dumb. And yeah, it sounds matter of fact. And yeah, it looks like something that should be done regardless, but that's not the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals run their organization like they've won 10 Super Bowls. Like, you know what? We got it. We know what the elixir for success is here. Just let us do our thing. And they constantly shoot themselves in the foot. Constantly. They're the laughing stock of the NFL. And they make the Browns look like a stable organization. And it's an absolute joke. So when you see the new GM and head coach go support their quarterback, these are steps in the right direction that a joke of an organization has yet to do up until this point. Does it seem choreographed? Does it seem premeditated? Absolutely. Does it matter? No. Up until this point, Kyler Murray, as the quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals, has been doing this alone. I've been saying since day one, Cliff Kingsbury is not the guy. I've been saying since day one that Steve Keim should have been fired after the 2018 season. I've gotten constant pushback that it's Kyler Murray's fault, that Steve Keim builds out rosters well because he trades for top-tier talent. You know what? You're wrong. And you know what's right? What Monti, Ossenfort, and Jonathan Gannon are beginning to do. This is going under the guise that Michael Bidwill is completely inept. This is going under the umbrella that Michael Bidwill is not fit to run an organization. With his treatment of others, with his treatment of players, everything. So what Monti, Ossenfort, and Jonathan Gannon have control over is how they treat the players. It's how they lead the players. It's how they support their players. And you could do a lot worse than showing up to the unveiling of a statue of a Heisman Trophy winner at Oklahoma, who happens to be the starting quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals. Get the hell out of here if you think this is anything but a positive for the Arizona Cardinals organization moving forward. It's one little thing, yeah. Is it going to make an immediate impact on anything? Probably not. But you know what? This isn't a step back, and I've said this a lot. Anything that's not a step back is a step forward for the Arizona Cardinals organization, who's one of the biggest losing organizations in the history of time and continues to run things like they've won multiple Super Bowls. So if it's going to take Monti, Ossenfort, and Jonathan Gannon to do things like this over and over again in an effort to build trust within the organization and leaving Michael Bidwill out of it, aside from just signing paychecks, which should be his only damn job anyways, more power to him. And how dare anybody see this as anything other than that? Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. There have been things that I've missed due to me being sick with FlowFlid over the last 8 or 9 days. And I'm going to rip through them because I've got things to say about that also. And I will discuss as Locked On Cardinals rolls on. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Feel like got some pent up things to say over the last 8 days. You can follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being an everydayer. Whether it be since 2017 when I started this thing, or if this is your first listen. Thank you. I'm going to put a bow on the Budda Baker talk because for those that have listened to this podcast for a long time, first of all, thank you. Second of all, I had this. Put it on the list 2 months ago. The Cardinals need to extend Budda Baker or he's going to request a trade. The Cardinals need to extend Budda Baker or things aren't going to go well for the Arizona Cardinals as it pertains to employing Budda Baker. It's obvious. He requested a trade. No S. Monti Ossenfort, one of the first still shots of him as the general manager of the Arizona Cardinals was him shaking Budda Baker's hand in the hallway. He talks about how Budda Baker is the staple for what Arizona Cardinals football should be. And when Budda Baker says he wants more money, they say no because he has 2 years left on his deal, because he wants to be the highest paid safety in the NFL. Is he the best safety in the NFL anymore? Probably not. Was he ever? Probably not. But you have to grade on a curve with the Arizona Cardinals. Budda Baker is the most important Arizona Cardinal under contract right now. And it's not just about the play on the field. It's what Budda Baker has done up until this point for the organization. He showed up every day. When you have guys missing time every year, Budda Baker played through injury all year last year. Did Byron Murphy? No. See ya. Did Kyler Murray? No. Did anybody play through more injuries than Budda Baker? No. So the fact that they refuse to give him an extension, is it probably too much money for him to get? Yeah. Is it going to be through a rebuild? For sure. But you know what you need in a rebuild? People you can trust. He said he loves it. I don't understand it. The Cardinals are so full of hot air if they refuse to extend him and then end up trading him. If he's the pillar, if he's the staple, prove it. If Michael Bidwill wants to win, you extend Budda Baker. Will it relay to winning next year? No. Will it relay to winning the year after? Maybe. But he's not even going to be 30 yet in 2 years. I can't understand why you don't just say, here, Budda, tell us what you want. You got it. You're important to this team. What does it say for the rest? There are reports out that this would set a bad precedent for other star teams. Is this a novel concept that an all-pro player wants more money 2 years before his contract is up? This is the NFL. Build a damn cohesive unit. Lock Budda Baker up for the next 3 years so you know who your leader is going to be on this team, on the defensive side of the ball especially. Do it. They won't. They're going to trade him, and the Cardinals are going to be the Cardinals. That's one. Number two, the uniforms. They're fine. I don't really have any knock on the actual uniform themselves. That's not what this is about. That's not what these last 3 minutes are going to be about, because that's all that I really want to spend on it. The timing for the Arizona Cardinals' new uniform unveiling is peculiar. It's peculiar. Oh, is it coincidental? Oh, it just could be. Let's just say it's a coincidence. Because that's easier to just acknowledge. No, Alex, you're dumb. It's a coincidence. And then move on. They're winning if you think that way. You're putty in their hands if you think that way. Sure, I'm sure they've been, talking about this, since right before COVID. They're carving out new uniforms. There have been 2 full seasons since COVID. Why now? Why now? The actual date isn't the point. Oh, because they got to do it before the draft. Oh, it's got to be. Stop. You're thinking too small. I challenge you on this podcast constantly to think outside of what everybody else is telling you, because that's the easy way to go. Think for yourself. Think. Take the date out of it, the actual date itself. During this offseason, what could be better to deflect all the excrement that's thrown all across the wall of State Farm Stadium than to give the fans what they want? Finally. New uniforms. Oh, they've been working on this for a long time. It's just circumstantial that this offseason, instead of next offseason, is when they're going to unveil them. Stop it. This isn't like, tin aluminum hat thinking. This is rational thought behind the eyes of someone who manipulates better than many in an effort to deflect the spotlight from him, Michael Bidwill. So right when rumblings, Terry McDonough, Steve Keim firing, and he just goes away for health reasons. And, you hope that he's better, whatever. Now he just pops up on Fox to talk about the draft. Interesting. All of the stuff coming about the mistreatment of employees, all the stuff about the report card from current and former players about the Arizona Cardinals and them just being at the bottom of the barrel. Oh, you know what? This is the perfect time to give the fans what they want, to placate them because they're dumb. That's what I see Michael Bidwill is thinking, because they're easily manipulated. Let's just give them the jerseys now. Just so easy. Just so easy to deflect. And then you go to the draft, and then, the heat's off me. Give me one reason why I shouldn't think that about Michael Bidwill. And I know that a lot of you have loved this team for a long time. And I know that it's tough to be a fan sometimes. And I know that Michael Bidwill has done his best to put sugar coating over what this organization looks like right now. This is just not another example of it. I think it is an insult to the intelligence of the fans to give them the jerseys now, regardless of what they look like. This is a dictionary definition of misdirection. To get the heat off him, give people what they want, go into the draft, nail the draft, then you know what? Heat's off me. I'm loved. I know what I'm doing. I'm a good owner. It's like, shut up. We see right through your bull crap. At least I do. Alex Nancy, Locked On Cardinals. I'll talk to you tomorrow.